Hi, everyone. I think we
Morning.
are live. We are so super excited to be here with you this morning to kick off the Constellations CSPD Summit virtually with everyone. My name is Lynn Diaz. I am a director at the Constellations Center for Equity and Computing at Georgia Tech. I have a few colleagues with me this morning, so I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves. Allie, why don't you start off?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Allie McFadden, and I am the Communications Manager for the Constellations Center at Georgia Tech.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. I'm Bryan Cox. I'm the Computer Science Program Specialist at the Georgia Department of Education.
Well, thank you both Allie and Bryan for being here. This summit is a collaboration between the Constellations Center, the Georgia Department of Education via the one and only Bryan Cox. We have also collaborated with the CS for Georgia Consortium and also the Computer Science Teachers Association. We have a great program scheduled for you throughout the next 3 days, and we really hope you enjoy the conference. We have K-12 sessions throughout the day. I want to remind all our teachers that we did the best we could to have a session for everyone at every time frame for sessions, meaning that there's always going to be a K-5 session or a K-12 session. There's always going to be a 6-8 session or a 6-12 session, and then there's always going to be a 9-12 session. So we really wanted to have something for everybody. We also have a great lineup of guest speakers and panelists. We are so excited to have them on our program. So we just hope that you enjoy it. And Allie's going to be reviewing some tips for you to consider as you participate. Just a reminder that you can post questions and comments on the chat, and we will be reviewing those as you post those throughout the day. I want to just say a few words about the planning committee and the team that helped put this together. You see us three on stage, but there were quite a few others that really helped us put the program together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backstage and I'm going to go get them and then bring them on stage for you to meet them. And in the meantime, Bryan and Allie can make a few remarks. It's only going to take me about a minute or two. I'll be right back.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess we'll give her a second. But as I saw in the chat, April, thank you for pointing out the Constellations Twitter handle. We do, if you guys are on Twitter, we would love for you to tweet all week with hashtag Constellation Summit. So please follow all the 4 organizations that are hosting this and use that hashtag so we can get the conversation out online to people who may not be able to attend the summit this week. So thank you for putting that up there, April.
And I just went backstage, and I think we're just going to give them a few more minutes to come on. I really wanted you to meet the Constellations Fellows. We have 3 Constellations Fellows who are really superb instructional specialists that are working with teachers in the Atlanta Metro, and they are going to be summit moderators. Actually, all of us are going to be summit moderators, but the fellows are going to be in your content sessions and helping to organize questions and just making sure that they help mitigate any technical difficulties. And I also wanted to introduce Teresa Yarbo, who is the president for the CSTA Georgia chapter. She is also helping to moderate some sessions, and we're going to be meeting her, getting to know her a little bit more later on in our program today. So, Ali, I'm going to try one more time to go backstage and to be able to broadcast them. And it might be that we might all have to leave the stage, but I'm going to confirm that and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
Looking in the chat, I see people joining us from Chicago and Alabama, and according to our registration, we have people from all over the world that are registered to join us today. So thanks for having us, coming to play with us and learn and grow, especially the teachers from Georgia. Shout out to all the computer science teachers in Georgia.
Yeah, I think we actually have a presenter from Scotland. So we are worldwide, and that's awesome.
Oh, somebody from New York popped in, and Toronto. And Oregon. Yeah, that's what I like. See?
Oregon, you must be up so early.
Hey, Aaron. Athens, Georgia.
There's one of our fellows. And there's another fellow.
Rome, Georgia. Bend, Oregon. Yeah. Morning, guys. We got Vegas in the house, Miami, Carrollton, Savannah. That's it. Listen, look at where everybody's coming from.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so am I back on too?
Mm-hmm.
You are. Hey, Lynn.
Okay, great. I think we are just waiting on Yolanda and Teresa. I'm hoping they can join us. And also La Isla and Miriam. I did want to give a shout out to La Isla. She is our senior admin professional and has been instrumental in helping us put this together. So if you see her name on the chat, or you can direct chat her and just give her, lots of air hugs, because she really stuck through it all with us to put this, to help us put this together. So why don't we give Terry and Sababu just a chance to introduce themselves and let us know your title and what your role will be today.
Senior Terry.
Okay, I'll take it from here. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to see so many folks online tonight, or today, I should say, this morning. It's going to be a very, very fun week. My role, I actually have dual roles. So I'll be moderating many of these sessions this week, as well as presenting with Sababu on Wednesday. We have an arrays activity that we're going to present. So I'll be doing a combination of moderating and presenting this week. I'll be moderating also on a couple of the stages. We're going to have some panel discussions on the stage. So I'll be moderating those as well. One of the things that we're going to be doing at the beginning of each session is asking you all to fill out a very quick 30-second survey just to find out where you are, where you teach, the subject areas that you're in, as far as, the grade levels that you teach, your name, and then which session you're in at that particular point in time. We're going to collect that data for our sakes and for the presenter's sakes, but we don't mind sharing that information out if you request it. So if you get prompted to fill out a survey right before the session starts, please do so. It'll take 30 seconds at the most. Sababu.
All right. And I am Sababu Shaka Barshongo. So I'm also a fellow at the Constellations Center for Equity and Computing. And I have dual roles as well. I will be moderating several sessions and panels this week, as well as presenting on Wednesday afternoon. So you have to come out and check us out.
Great. Okay, I think what we need to do at this point, Ali, is why don't you walk us through some of your tips for participants? Okay, and then we'll be, I'll be checking to see if Yolanda and Teresa are available before we get started.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good morning, everyone. As Lynn said, I'm Allie McFadden, the Communications Officer. So I'm just going to go over some quick tips about how to work the platform so you can have a great week. If you're here, it's because you're already navigating Hopin super well. You've made it to the stage, so great job. Because you'll see on the left-hand side of your screen that there is reception, stage, sessions, and networking. So reception is where you'll come in to hop in every day. That's where you can see the schedule. You can see any like updates that we might have for you on there. And then you'll also see a link back to the Summit website. This is where you can see full descriptions of every session, who's speaking on it. Hopin does have like a character limit for those descriptions. So if you want the full picture of everything, make sure you go to the website and you can see the schedule by day and the whole thing. The stage is where we are right now. And it's where some of the panels will be. We'll have a fireside chat here in a minute. We'll be hearing from people like Kamal Bob and Teresa Yarbrough here. So this is where everyone can come together all at the same time to either get some announcements or hear from certain speakers. And then you see on the sessions, which is where all of your content sessions will be. And just a note on this is that sessions will not appear there until 5 minutes before they're about to start. So if you're trying to go in sessions and like look at all the different ones throughout the time, you won't be able to see them until they're about to start. So I promise they will show up and they will be there, but they just won't be there until right before you're about to start. And if you didn't see this link in the chat, we're super excited that we've partnered with the Center for Inclusive Design and Innovation to provide live closed captioning for all sessions that are here on the stage. So anytime we're on the stage together, at the beginning of that, a link will be posted. And if you would like closed captioning, you'll just click on that and it'll pop out a separate window. And we have awesome people who are helping to live caption us. So if that's something that you need or want, please take advantage of it. It's here for you. Again, as we mentioned before, we would love for you to tweet about this. So please use hashtag Constellation Summit. We'll be retweeting and favoriting and all that kind of stuff. So we'd love to see your participation online. If you do run into any technical issues, the biggest thing that helps is just restarting your browser. And a reminder that it works best in Chrome or Firefox. Safari is not fully supported, so please try to use Firefox or Chrome throughout the week. Terry already covered the link that moderators will be sending out. So just again, please try to fill that out. That'll be super helpful. The best audio experience comes from wearing headphones. So if you have a pair and can grab them, that really helps get rid of any feedback or any audio issues. So try to wear those if you want. We ask that whenever you enter a session to please mute your mics as you go in. This helps minimize sound issues, and the presenter doesn't have the ability to mute everyone. So we just ask that you help them out and mute your mic when you go in. In sessions, as you can see right now, we have this whole event-wide chat, but in your content sessions, there will be a separate chat for that on the left or on the right-hand side. So when you're in your session, you have questions, make sure you use that one so that the moderator can help you either with a technical issue or to get a question to the presenter. But feel free to use the event-wide chat like the whole time to help connect with people and stuff, but there is a specific session chat for that. And just, I guess, some reminders with the chat is to just be professional and friendly in it. I know you all will be, but just want to remind you that this is a positive and encouraging place, and we're excited to learn this week. And to just be, open-minded and willing to participate and learn with your peers. We have a lot of great sessions that are going to cover a lot of different topics, and they might be brand new to you, and or something you already know, but also brand new to other people. So if you can help them out, or there's someone teaching something you're not familiar with, just have an open mind, because it might change how you do stuff. Hop-in is pretty straightforward, but if you have any issues, just let us know. Or if you see someone struggling, we ask that if you can help them out. We're all in this together. We would have loved to have seen you all in person this week, but obviously that couldn't happen. So we ask that you just kind of help us make sure that the virtual version of this goes well. And then I did want to mention the networking opportunities that are every day from 5:30 to 6. They are on the left-hand side in that little networking section. You'll be randomly paired with someone and have the ability to talk with them for up to 8 minutes. We're working really hard to build a great community of educators for lifelong support. And so we hope that you'll take advantage of this opportunity. As you've seen in the chat, we have people from the Netherlands, Oregon, Athens, Georgia, everywhere. So it's a really great chance to meet teachers and admins from all over the world. So we hope you take advantage of that. And then we just want to remind you guys to take care of yourself this week. There's a lot going on. And we have a jam-packed schedule. And so, if you have just reached a point where you are overloaded for a few minutes and need to go take a break, that's totally fine. All of our sessions are going to be recorded and put on the Constellations YouTube channel after the summit concludes. So, or if there are multiple sessions at the same time that you want to go to and you're feeling stressed about which one to go, don't worry about it. We're recording all of them. So if you want to watch every single session that happens this week, you will have the chance to do that. But we want you to be your best self this week and to get the most out of this as you can. So if you need to go take a walk instead of sitting in a session, we totally understand, and we have got your back to make sure you can still get all the content you need. And lastly, if you have any questions throughout the conference or running into any issues, you can direct message either Lynn Diaz or Laisla and Miriam on here, and they will get back to you like that. Or if you have other issues and want to email us, our email address is gtconstellations@gatech.edu. Feel free to email us or DM us on here, and we will be happy to help you. And so those are kind of some tips, tricks, navigation, all that fun stuff. Lynn, did you want to bring the rest of our team up?
Yes, I do. And I think what we'll need to do is I'll go backstage again and then bring them up forward. Okay? Okay, we'll be right back.
I may have to hop off to make space, so I'll be back.
Okay. Do you have any funny jokes, Terry? Oh, I think you're muted. That was probably a really good joke.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, I'm always the one laughing and not telling the jokes. So, no, I don't have any good funny jokes.
I know. I should have prepped a list of them for this. So, hopefully this will not be an ongoing thing. So thank you guys for your patience as we work out bringing the people on the stage. I think this
okay. So I think what we have to do is actually stop broadcasting, and then all of us go backstage, and then we'll be able to come back on.
And add them. 1 second.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and do that? And then I will hop off so that you can bring on Laisla and Teresa. Okay, why don't you go ahead and do that? And then I will hop off so that you can bring on Laisla and Teresa.
Sorry, guys. I do not know. Yolanda, do you have a separate tab open?
Good morning.
Good morning. Yolanda, this is everyone. This is Yolanda. She is one of our other Constellations Fellows. So Yolanda, do you want to tell them like what your role with this is?
So I have the best job in the world. I get to work with teachers and students and do computer science. So that right there, working with the Constellations Fellows is the best thing ever. But during this week, I'll be helping with the elementary sessions.
Awesome. Yay. You guys are lucky to have her in your sessions. And then this was Laisla Amiriam. She is our amazing senior admin professional who has done so much with getting this conference off the ground, getting Hopin to be a thing. So we wanted you to see her face and for her to get a chance to say hi because she is the rock star behind all of us.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad that this is up and running and everyone has joined and participated. Even our presenter out in Scotland, I'm very excited that this has gone international. A really big accomplishment for me as well as the team and our department at Georgia Tech and the College of Computing. So everyone enjoy. Take all the sessions. I'll be jumping in and out of sessions because I'm very new to computer science as well for myself. So this will be a good learning opportunity for me as well. So everyone enjoy. If you have any questions, I'll be in the chats and throughout the day. So send me, I'm here.
Thank you so much, Laisla. Really, from every one of us, we couldn't have done it without you. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Allie, I think we may have Jake also ready to come on stage. So Yolanda and Laisla, we will definitely see you all later.
All right.
And
Bye-bye.
now we have.
Good morning, Jake.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, we made it.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is Jake Baskin, Bryan Cox, and Lynn Diaz, and we are gonna, I guess, transition into our Fireside Chat panel.
Hey, before we get started on that, Ali, did we remind folks about the polls that we might be posting?
We did not. Would you like to tell them about that?
Sure. So as part of the chat features, one of the things that we'll be able to do is post some polls throughout the day. And so we want you to be sure to check those out and participate. Our first question for this morning is to get a feel for what grade level you are teaching or overseeing. So if you head on over, if you click on polls, then you can participate. And we'll be looking at the results throughout the day. That's all. That's all I have.
Yes, no, important. Yeah, we're gonna, I guess, get started with our very first session of the whole conference, which is exciting. So again, welcome. We're so excited to have you guys here, and I'm personally really excited to kick this off with an awesome session by Lynn Diaz, Bryan Cox, and Jake Baskin. And there is going to be like a live Q&A at the end of the session, so please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and I will do my best to feed those to them. So if anything pops up during it that you want to ask them, let me know in the chat. And then, but first, I want to let Bryan kind of take the lead, and he's going to lead us in a moment of silence and kind of talk about that for a second.
Thanks, Allie. So before we begin, I'd like us all to start by paying respects to all of those that have stood and or fallen due to racial oppression or inequality. A lot of what we do here is intent on broadening participation in computer science, but that's just one lens, one layer of the challenges that we're facing. So I'd like us all to start with taking a moment of silence to reflect on the implications surrounding and the potential inspiration resulting from the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. So can we take a moment of silence, please? Okay, thank you. As we move forward, can we move forward with that spirit in mind that this work is important work, not just fun?
Thanks, Bryan. Great way to start the day. And so as we go into this fireside chat, I do want to give you guys some background on who these lovely people are up on stage with me. You've heard from Bryan. Bryan is the computer science program specialist at the Georgia Department of Education. At the DOE, Bryan is responsible for broadening participation in computer science educational experiences in Georgia and building computer science into a K-12 discipline. He organizes the State Department of Education's Computer Science Advisory Council. He's a backbone member of the CS for GA Collective and serves on several advisory committees for CS initiatives around the state. He is currently pursuing a PhD in instructional technology from Georgia State University with a research focus in online learning and computational thinking. So we're excited to learn more about Bryan. Jake is the executive director of the Computer Science Teachers Association, CSTA, which is the world's leading association for K-12 computer science teachers. He is a former high school computer science teacher himself, department chair, and professional development writer with the Chicago Public Schools. As a teacher, he focused on increasing access to computing for underrepresented groups and more than doubled female enrollment in introductory computer science classes, which is awesome because girls rock. And last but not least, Lynn Diaz is the founding director of the Constellations Center for Equity in Computing at Georgia Tech, bringing an essential core foundation of equity and access and opportunity to computer science education. Her role as Director of Educational Innovation and Leadership helps maintain Constellations as a leader in expanding computer science education through an equitable and comprehensive approach in national, state, and local education systems. She is a former math and science teacher and athletic coach and enjoys frozen chocolate and coconut ice cream, which is delicious. So that's our three amazing panelists. And just a reminder that this is going to be a candid conversation on the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, school closures, and the current race movement on educators. It's important to acknowledge that this has brought a lot of hardships on teachers and brought a lot of issues more out into the open. So, but it's also important, to offer solutions and a glimmer of hope for the future of CS education. But first, I've told you guys a little bit about all of you, but can you just tell us a bit about some current projects that you're working on right now? Jake, do you want to start?
There you go.
Absolutely. Hey, everyone. It is so great to be here. And a huge thank you, Lynn and Allie and Bryan for inviting me to participate. So excited to be a part of this event overall. I will take this opportunity to say the biggest project that I'm working on right now is the upcoming CSTA annual conference. And you still have an opportunity to register if you're interested. That's happening later this summer. But overall, at CSTA, really, we've been digging in and thinking a lot about what community means in our new environment. And I think we'll talk a little bit about that in our conversation throughout this morning, and finding ways that we can support teachers and our members across the country and around the world to connect in new ways and actually learn from the way we've all been forced to embrace and take a crash course in what virtual connections look like. I'm really excited to see how we can continue to leverage that moving forward.
So a lot of what my work is right now is really about supporting our recent legislation, Senate Bill 108, which requires all middle schools and high schools in Georgia to offer computer science. So we have a lot of work to do in order to get there. The date is 2025. So a lot of my work centers around supporting teachers and districts as they build up their teacher capacity and their ability to offer computer science, hopefully to all students in Georgia. My goal is to get 1.7 million students to have access to high quality computer science education. So we have some new online courses offered by the Georgia DOE. We have more endorsement programs cropping up every day. So just anything moving towards that.
Yeah, I think I am very excited to be working on Bryan on some of those things, but I think lately, aside from putting together this summit, what the team and I have been really focused on is figuring out a way to build better communities amongst ourselves within our own teams, and to share some of those lessons learned to the broader community. I think with everything else that has been happening around us, that there are a lot of lessons learned that we need to internalize ourselves, and then learn how to then move forward and build a better, unified, cohesive community of teachers. And we've been, spending quite a bit of time talking about that and thinking about the impacts of that. If we keep doing the same things we're doing in the same way that we've done, for so long, how can we truly affect the change that we want to see? And so we've spent a lot of time talking about that and strategizing about what our next moves will be moving forward. Additionally, I really do think we need to spend a lot more time considering how we're going to be working with teachers moving forward. Now that there are concerns about the coronavirus and COVID-19, is school going to look the same? How is that going to look like? And what is our role to support teachers in the best way that we can? If we can't be there with them in the classrooms, what technological solutions are available for us, and how can we best utilize them to provide the equity and the support that is needed in CS education right now? So, we've had some good conversations, and I think we're going to try some new things, but those are just some of the bigger conversations we've been having lately.
Yeah, you just started touching on this, but obviously people around the world have been extremely impacted by COVID, and all this conversation about racial injustice is just really making us all rethink a lot of things about our classrooms and how we interact with people and all that. So just curious of how COVID and these recent movements in racial injustice has impacted your community, your colleagues, work, family. Just talk about kind of what's different. Bryan, do you want to start?
Sure. Although those appear to be two very separate questions, there's a lot of overlap. So COVID has us all rethinking education in general and our lives as a whole. I think it's, for my team personally, we're thriving with this at-home work scenario. But for a lot of people that are very close to me, they're struggling. They have lost jobs, been laid off, trying to figure out how to manage this space. In the education space, this has brought to light some of the inequities that we've been seeing, but are now able to see more clearly with some of the people who don't have access to broadband, or don't have access to devices, or don't have access to computer science education, which is the ability to use those devices effectively and efficiently and with strong etiquette. So all of these different layers of needs that we've known existed before are being put on stage now. So we get to see a lot of that, and are forced to think about and find ways to address some of those challenges. And I'm grateful for, all the partners that have rushed forward to say, hey, we're going to help with broadband, or going to get some devices in students' hands and things like that. We need more of that. It's not nearly enough. But it's, like I said, it gives us the opportunity to really look at and address some of the challenges that have been there for a while. Anybody else want to chime in on that one? I mean, and you know, with some of the stuff that we're doing. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jake. You go.
I was going to say, I think, Bryan, you're exactly, you know, highlighting how many new forms of work and teaching are being brought to the table. I think it's been really interesting for us at CSTA to see the ways that teachers have found to connect with each other. And as I look at the optimistic side of some of what is coming up, I'm really impressed by how quickly I've seen communities form and overcome the barrier of not being able to meet physically in person anymore. You know, that goes from events, but I think more importantly to the increased comfort in being able to just check in with a group of teachers online for a little bit at the end of the day in a way that wasn't as common in the past. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to form new learning networks that have come from that. I think the other point that's really sunk in to me in looking at this question is, you know, I live in Chicago. It's an incredibly segregated city, one of the most segregated in the country. And when I think about the recent protests and movements in response to the police murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, you know, in some ways I you know, am struck by how much it doesn't affect my community, and the way that in the city of Chicago, we still keep things so separate and still are sort of treating, you know, treating this in many parts of the city as something that you can address for a minute and then go back to your life. And so I'm hopeful that there are more conversations happening, but it has made just as stark how far we have to go in the city and I think in many others.
Yeah, I want to say something to that, Jake. The way I see things is we currently have two pandemics going on right now, COVID-19 and racism. And we're trying to figure out how to develop a vaccine for one of those things, for one of those pandemics. What are we really doing about the other is, I think, a big question that I'm asking myself and my team and, you know, everyone around me, because both of those things affect education. Both of those things affect healthcare, the criminal justice system for sure, and the economy, you know, which a lot of people are concerned about. But what are we really trying to do to combat injustices, inequities, inequalities in our country? And, you know, our educators in general are being faced with hard decisions. They're making some hard decisions about opening schools and, you know, how to do that in the midst of these calls for justice and the pandemic. But I do want to say that I don't have all the answers to all of these issues, but taking care of our teachers is a big deal for me. We have to figure out a way to take care of our teachers so that they can then do the hard job we've asked them to do, which is educate our youth. But if we don't take care of our teachers, you know, how can they do that? When we open up schools, are we really, what's the mind frame that decision makers are in when they're making those decisions? Are they in the mind frame of, we have to open up schools, that's our job, that's, you know, that's it. I get it. But if they go in with, you know, we're going to be taking care of our teachers and understanding that if they open up schools, teachers then become frontline workers. They're putting themselves at risk, you know, and so I think we just kind of have to take a minute and really understand where these decisions are coming from and who's involved and how can we help make those situations better. as part of the Constellations Center, the team I've been working with, we see the struggles that teachers go through day in and day out. And some of those decisions, these teachers have no say in. So we need to bring voice to teachers and have them be part of these decision-making processes too. And also be able to express what they're going through during these two pandemics, So we need to do a better job at bringing voice to these teachers and educators.
Yeah. Bryan, I'm going to start with you on this question. What are some concerns that you have with the current structures or policies that are in place in terms of the inequities that you're observing across different school systems? And then how do those specifically affect computer science education?
Concerns. So a lot of my concerns generally start, and this goes with the racial challenges and even the COVID challenges. It generally starts with the different levels of economic resources available to school systems. So schools that have fewer economic resources, families that have fewer economic resources, inevitably have fewer opportunities, have less access to computer science education, less access to all the things that we know make us viable in society. And some of that is structural. Some of it is built into, this is where everybody with high income lives. So those school systems tend to get more resources, have no problems finding devices for students, and so on and so forth. But some of it is still very ideological. It's part of the culture and the way that we approach each other that creates some of those barriers. People are still telling boys they'll be more likely to be successful in computer science than girls. People are still more likely to champion a young white male as far as being successful in computer science, as opposed to a black male or a black woman or black girl that may show some aptitude. These are still things that we see and experience in our schools. I've visited schools and seen some of those disparities, and people don't even really realize the biases that they hold when they talk to their students, or when they talk to their teachers, or when they talk to the parents and things like that. So a lot of it is structural, and we have to address that structural challenge when we see it and find ways to make changes in regards to that. But a lot of it is personal biases that we just have to grow out of. We have to continue to have these conversations with parents, with our students, with fellow teachers. Like if you see a teacher that's saying or doing something that is marginalizing a student, you got to be able to address it and address it with patience and consideration, but also address it immediately so that it doesn't perpetuate into the future. Every student that we impact, and like every time we talk to a student, impacts that student for years to come. So anytime we let it slide, that's an opportunity that we've missed. So just things like that concern me on a regular basis. And I wish we could move faster, but I know that we all move at the pace that we all move. So those are some of my concerns with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, do you want to add anything?
I think, Bryan, you really you nailed it with your answer. I think want to also take an optimistic perspective in that I think for the first time in my lifetime, from a policy perspective, it seems like everything is on the table with regards to education, and I've never seen that before. That can go in very different directions. There are opportunities to make big changes that folks never would have considered before, and that also means that the changes we make in the next few months will have greater impact than I think we've seen from policy perspectives in the past. And that means we need to also be incredibly thoughtful about unintended excuse me, unintended consequences that might flow from what we do over the next little bit as we try to address many of the issues that have been made more apparent in the last few months.
Yeah, absolutely. Lynn, do you have anything to add?
I would add that we all have to be vigilant about budget as well too. You know, the budget that is allocated for education and the budget that is allocated for CS education are almost, it seems like almost always two different things. And what we consider CS education can also be different. So we just have to continue to be vigilant and make sure that there is funding to move forward with work around equity in CS education, you know, specifically, and be more active or engaged in these efforts to you know, solve for the issues that Bryan brought up, because we still have them. And we also have to understand that a lot of those issues are deeply rooted in the bias and the, you know, or implicit bias, as you call it, as some people call it, that has been going on for years and years and years. And so it would be remiss of us to not see that until we address those, until we have more conversations about these implicit biases towards, you know, people of color and other minoritized communities, we really can't get to the issues of CS education. It's all intertwined, and I think we have to do a better job at, you know, addressing it collectively, holistically, comprehensively, and we need the budget to do that.
Absolutely. I feel like something that I've been hearing a lot right now is that people are feeling hopeful. They're feeling hopeful in how things might actually change this time because of all of the protests and things that are happening, and that when we emerge from this pandemic, you know, our work life is going to look different. Things are just finally going to make changes that have been in the works for a long time. So I'm curious on how you guys feel right now about all of this, and then also what kind of improvements or things are you looking for or hoping to see, especially in regards to CS education as we move past or come out of the pandemic and make some actual like structural social change that's needed in this country. Jake, do you want to start?
Absolutely. There we go. Yeah, I mean, not to start by sounding bleak, but if we look at history, maybe we've had moments and we seem to be unsuccessful in making change in the past. But I think coming back to what I said before, feel optimistic around how much is up for discussion and how willing folks in education seem to making big changes. When I look at this from a CS education perspective, especially, I can't. We've had these challenges of really working with, I think, school level leaders around how do you make space for computer science. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing administrators talk about how we can shift dramatically how much other subjects are being taught within the school day. And if we're really willing to talk about changing how much math or science there are, I think it means that there's a really new way to say there's space for computer science. There's space for computer science that actually helps answer some of the questions that administrators are facing around how we're going to make distanced or semi-distance learning work, and being able to take advantage of this space to do that. I mean, at the same time, I've spent the last few years of my career trying to convince folks that when we talk about computer science education, we also need to be talking about how we're going to address race in computer science and make sure that we're talking about that in how we teach CS. And again, now we have a point in time where people don't look at you really uncomfortably when you bring that up. And I should say, white administrators are the people who are looking at me uncomfortably and thinking about how we can use this as a moment to say that CS matters. It doesn't matter just because of jobs, and it matters how we teach it matters in a new and much more meaningful way than folks were willing to talk about even a year ago.
Yeah, I agree. I love that my job for the past couple of years has been to walk into rooms of bigwigs or academics and say, hey, we need more Black children in computer science. What are you all going to do about this? Like, I love that that's been my job. And, a lot of us have known for a while that there's a transition going on in society that similar to the industrial age, where the new jobs require a new skill set. And we've been shouting for a while about, this is the new skill set. This is what we need to make sure everybody has. But thus far, there are groups of people that have been left out of that job set. And even though I recognize the challenge that COVID presents, I also see the opportunity, because now more people see how important this skill set is. And so now those shouts and those comments that we make in the rooms have more volume. So if I say, look, there have been people that have been marginalized according to, or within this sector, within this industry, more people are saying, well, wait, so what are we doing about that? Like, I get a lot of questions now about what are we doing about broadening participation in computer science? And I appreciate the fact that people are listening now, that there's more attention and more notice being had at all levels, in legislative, with legislation, with administrators in schools. Some administrators have told me in the past, we don't need computer science, we're farmers. And now those same administrators are saying, so what do we need to do in order to get more CS into our schools and make sure that more of our students have access? So the fact that those conversations are being had and had in earnest means a lot to me. Like, that gives me hope.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, Bryan. I do see that happening a lot more often, and it's okay to have uncomfortable conversations with educators. It's okay to do that, and I think, Jake, you and your colleagues and Bryan, you are the right people to be spearheading those kinds of conversations, with educators at all levels and legislators. So that gives me that, that gives me hope. Bryan's like, no.
Not the legislature.
Oh, true. That gives me hope. I also want to say that just bringing more awareness about CS education has also done, I think a pretty good job at explaining what really broadening participation is and what equity is and why that is important. I do see that. I get that. And what I think we should aim for is more cohesiveness, not just me in the Constellation Center doing our thing, and Jake and CSTA doing, their thing, and Bryan at DOE, doing your thing. I like the fact that we were able to come together and, have this conversation and put this program together. We need to emphasize more of this collaboration amongst other major organizations as well, so that it's more cohesive and that we're all speaking the same, the same things intentionally. It has to be intentional. And so I look forward to being able to do that more as we proceed and as we move forward together.
Absolutely. We're running a little low on time, so I do want to transition us to the Q&A portion. And so if you have questions that you want to ask the panelists, please put them in the chat. We did have a great question from Grant Hutchinson. Is integration of CS techniques within math, science, or other subjects the way to deliver more equitable learning opportunities? I don't know if anyone wants to take the lead on that question.
Can you say one more time? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yep. Let me go scroll back up to it. Sorry. Is integration of CS techniques within math, science, or other subjects the way to deliver more equitable learning opportunities?
Definitely. So when we did the standards for Georgia, the new K standards that adopted last year, we did it with an eye towards integration, knowing that long term, that's what we expect to be our Trojan horse. I mean, it's great to have separate CS courses because it is a very distinct skill set to teach. But because of the way our society is being structured and the way the transition is happening, CS touches on and involves and enhances everything else that we do, whether it's biology or math or chemistry or even language arts, like it's a literacy. And we'll have somebody talking tomorrow, Dr. Dooley is talking tomorrow about how it's an essential literacy. I think the integration of computer science into the other content areas is probably the most powerful way that we can push this agenda forward, because like I said, it contextualizes everything and brings it into this new 21st century. So yeah, I think that's a great approach, and everybody that we can get on board with that approach, I think that helps out tremendously.
Yeah. Can I just say one more thing about that too? Just adding to what Bryan said, and the importance of broadening participation and including more diverse perspectives, not just, diverse people for sure, and people of color, is that technology is being made without our voices, without our perspectives, without our intuitions, and without our experiences. And so then we expect technology to work for everyone, when in many cases, too often, it does not. It doesn't work. Or we have to adapt to technology. And so those are the kinds of conversations that we want to elevate throughout this summit with a lot of the sessions that we have, with a lot of the presenters that are here. And I think the more that we have those conversations, the better off we will be in preparing ourselves, to take this out into our own schools, into our, own communities. So thank you for mentioning that, Bryan.
I will jump in really quickly. I know we're right at time. I'm sorry, but it's only exciting panel if there's at least a little disagreement and we've agreed on everything else. So Grant, to your question, I want to say it's certainly, yes, it's incredibly important to think about how we can integrate computer science, but that really needs to be in combination with dedicated time for computer science as well. I worry that if we don't always ask for both of those at the same time, we're going to only get an attempt at integration that is always more focused on the other subject than the computer science that we're bringing in. And so I really, really want to emphasize that I don't think we can give up on the push for dedicated computer science time that goes in coordination with that integrated effort.
I agree.
Always good to have some discourse, but we are just a little bit over time, and you guys do have a break now until 10, and we definitely want to give you time to process everything that these awesome panelists just talked about and get ready for your sessions. When you come back, it'll be in the sessions tab, and I know there was tons of great conversation going on in the event chat, so keep that up, and our panelists and other speakers will do our best to answer all of your questions that they didn't get to here, but we're so excited that you guys are here, and thank you so much to Jake, Bryan, and Lynn for kicking us off with such a great conversation. But for now, go grab some coffee, some water, bathroom break, notepad, any of that, and we will see you in the sessions at 10. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Bryan.
Thanks,
Thanks, Jake.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Good to talk with you all.